So you're focusing on time frame, and this is something that's perplexed me continually with regards to both the climate debate and the carbon dioxide debate, because my sense is that you can derive whatever conclusion you want, essentially, about temperature and about carbon dioxide and about the relationship between temperature and carbon dioxide by merely arbitrarily choosing a particular period of time to study. Now, what struck me about the presentation of yours that I saw was that you circumvented that to some degree by using extremely long spans of time. And so the claim that you just made, let me just lay it out again for everyone who's watching and listening, is that over the last 250 million years, we've rarely been in a period that's as cold as it is now. And that for much of that time, when there was no shortage, we never have been. Okay, we never have been. Now, there have been periods of time in the Earth's history when the whole Earth was an ice ball. How long ago were those periods of time?
2 billion years ago. It's theoretical. It isn't proven. It is possible that there were ice ages that were more extreme than the 3 that have occurred in the last 500 million years. The Silurian was a shorter ice age that occurred when CO2 was at 6,000 parts per million. You know, it's 400 and some now, and they're saying it's going to make the Earth go on fire. And then the Karoo was 100 million years long. That was during the time when forests evolved. And it was very similar in temperature to the one we're in now. You see, the International Stratigraphy Institution, I think that's not quite its name, but stratigraphy is the layers of the Earth that you can read, the ages and the fossils and stuff like that. They have declared this Holocene interglacial period as a new epoch. The Pleistocene is an epoch, and it's lasted for 2.5 million years, and there have been at least 40 interglacial periods, no different from this one, during that time.
Do you ever read the fine print that appears when you start browsing in incognito mode? It says that your activity might still be visible to your employer, your school, or your internet service provider. To really stop people from tracking your online activity, you need to do what I do and use ExpressVPN. Think about all the times you've used Wi-Fi at a coffee shop, the airport, or work. Without ExpressVPN, every site you visit could be logged by the admin of that network, which is still true even when you're in incognito mode. What's more, your home internet provider can also see and record your browsing data. In the US, they're legally allowed to sell that data to advertisers. ExpressVPN is an app that encrypts all of your network data and reroutes it through a network of secure servers, so your private online activity stays just that, private. ExpressVPN works on all your devices and it's super easy to use. The app literally has one button. You tap it to connect, and your browsing activity is secure from prying eyes. Stop letting strangers invade your online privacy. Protect yourself at expressvpn.com/JordanYT. Use Jordan's link at expressvpn.com/JordanYT to get 3 extra months free. That's expressvpn.com/JordanYT to learn more.
Okay, that's a span of how long did you say, the Pleistocene?
2.6 million years it's arbitrary, but it was going down, and they said, okay, this is where we'll call it the Pleistocene, because it had become so much colder than it was 50 million years ago. And it had gone down quickly, and then it leveled off for a while, for about another 10 million years, and then it crashed down to where we are now, with the fact that we are in as cold a period as has ever existed in the past 550 million years. Now, as for Iceball Earth, Iceball Earth is too long ago to have accurate records. There's all kinds of. I've read a lot about it, and there's a lot of speculation involved in it. Obviously, the world didn't freeze over completely, or there wouldn't be any life here again. I mean, life had already occupied all the oceans of the world by that time. And there was no life to speak of on land. I'm not sure about bacterial forms I mean, there's so much we don't know. The reason I don't go back except to say that photosynthesis and sexual reproduction both evolved during that earlier period, going back 2-3 billion years. But multicellular life never came into existence until about 560 million years ago. Before that, every living thing had been unicellular, microscopic, and confined to the sea. So
Right.
that to me, that's where we start really knowing things from the
so let's get
70s.
all right. So let's get the biggest picture here and zoom in a little bit. So 4.5 billion years ago, we have the emergence of the Earth. We have the emergence of life. 3.5 billion years ago, and we have something like that. We have an unbelievably long span of essentially 3 billion years. Then, when life is unicellular. 500 million years ago, we get the emergence of multicellular life. And that's the time when you start to focus in on the data, thinking that, at least in part, the evidence for anything that happened before that is thin and speculative. How good is the evidence for our conception of climate and atmospheric composition from 550 million years ago to now? And also, from what sources is that evidence derived? Like, how do we know what the temperature was? How do we know how much carbon dioxide there was in the atmosphere across that 500 million year period? And how much more accurate do our estimates get as the millions of years progress?
Very good question. Yes, we have a lot of proxies. The best evidence started to occur in 1958 in the International Geophysical Year, when ships went out all over the world and drilled deeply into the marine sediments to look at various proxies. Oxygen 18 is a really important one. It has to do with different decay rates of different isotopes of various elements. I'm not an expert on this, but I know that's how it's done. Also, the foraminifera, which are a tiny shelled animal that lives in the sea and is of huge abundance. We know from the shape of their shells how long ago it was, along with the proxy radiation stuff. So we can look deep down into these sediments and see the evolution of life. And the first multicellular life was pretty well all just like jellyfish. There were no shells yet or bones. And the clam family went off to make a shell as like a knight in armor, like a protective plating around its whole body, and made it much less susceptible to predation. But the bony fish decided to have, then they started from way, way back, that same sort of 500 million year period. And the skeleton and the central spine became a very desirable thing to have, to hold the fleshy part together. And
academics could learn from that, Patrick, I would say. The importance of a spine, you might say.
Yes, quite important. But you'll find that everything that has a spine can run pretty fast because we don't have a shell around us. Whereas the bivalves and univalves and all of the other shelled species in the sea, in particular, there are freshwater clams and mussels, which is proof that the oceans won't become so acidic, as they like to say. Less alkaline is what they really mean. That it's going to melt all the shells of the shelled creatures in the sea. That's ocean acidification. I have a paper on it called basically a relook at this idea, because it only emerged. The whole idea of ocean acidification emerged when the temperature stopped rising in the late 90s. There was a flattening out period, and everybody's going, "Oh no, we have to create a new scare story because this one isn't working as well as it used to." And that's the kind of thing that drives a person like me nuts, because they get away with this.
Yeah.
And so The shelled creatures, though, can be what's the word for stay in one place?
Sedentary.
Sedentary. Yes, and they can be like oysters and all those shelled species, but the jellyfish are still around, but most of them have stingers. So they don't have to be able to run away too fast because the other species know that it's not a very pleasant experience to swallow one. And so all these different strains, the phylum of life, many phylum have emerged in this 500 million year period. And the only reason they're still here is because they were successful. Now, people say that when I say, well, the Eocene thermal maximum was like way hotter than it is now, there was no ice anywhere for 250 million years, and life thrived. The dinosaurs thrived. If it hadn't been for the asteroid, they'd still be here, but it made room for us mammals to fill the gap. And so they say, but humans couldn't have lived through that. No, but their ancestors did. If we wouldn't be here if our ancestors hadn't lived through the hot period. And so that this 500 million years gives you absolute proof that the climate emergency and this strong relationship between CO2 and temperature, they are out of sync through that 500 million year period more than they're in sync.